All British film is independent. We don't have a big studio over here. We're a tiny little nation that makes films that knocks everybody on their arse. So it's very important, these awards, because it's just British films that are here. So we get to give ourselves a pat on the back, and I think it's well deserved. I thought Suffragette was pretty good. I think people mustn't forget that was a really bold film and had massive stars in a small British movie. So yeah, I hope that does well.
Do you think that's an indication of the kind of things that British film and independent film can achieve that perhaps mainstream cinema can't, taking risks and addressing big issues? Well,
I love the fact that Meryl Streep keeps turning up in these small British movies. You know, that you don't get a better thumbs up than that. So the greatest actress in the world keeps appearing in films like Iron Lady or Suffragette. So yeah, I think we're taken very seriously these days. And the difference between the small films and the big films is getting, smaller and smaller. Well, I'm doing a play. I'm doing a Harold Pinter play for the beginning of the year, and then I'm supposed to be directing my next film, which I'll talk about next year. I'll be here. Hopefully, I'll be here with my fingers crossed for an award. But next year, I'll be making another movie, which I'm very excited about. I've directed 3 films, both of them have been nominated here, and I love directing. It just takes much longer. So there's 2 or 3 years of hanging around before they become real. So I love acting because it's immediate. You go, you turn up and do it. Making a film is a test of patience as well as everything else. So I can't wait to direct I can't wait to get back in the chair.
It was really important to make sure that we grounded the character arcs of each of those roles. So with Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, often it starts very quickly that it's a story of greed and ambition, and we wanted to give it some sort of humanistic aspect so that people could follow the characters, and actually so the actors could get into the roles a little bit more. We've been lucky enough to work with Michael across a set of films, and everything from playing Macbeth to a cowboy through to his Brandon in Shame. It's been really diverse and amazing every single day you show up. So that we always knew we were going to get something special with Michael. And then Marion, the hill that she had to sort of climb, because she'd never played Lady Macbeth in French, let alone English. So to learn a foreign language of a foreign language was pretty extraordinary, and she's amazing in the film. Yeah, it was very cold and very wet and very windy. I was saying that last night I felt that something must be happening Macbeth related over the next few days, because it was literally like when we were in Scotland and when we were doing those battle scenes. It was so windy that people were flying across the fields that we were shooting in. So it felt very timely last night to be in the same weather pattern as we were when we were filming the film. Yeah, it was very cold and very wet and very windy. I was saying that last night I felt that something must be happening Macbeth related over the next few days, because it was literally like when we were in Scotland and when we were doing those battle scenes. It was so windy that people were flying across the fields that we were shooting in. So it felt very timely last night to be in the same weather pattern as we were when we were filming the film.
How does it feel to have the film nominated in so many categories here this year?
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. And also to be amongst all of the other films that are so diverse, and you sort of think of British independent films, or you ask anyone in the street, what is a British film? And then you look at the list of diverse films that are up tonight, and it sort of makes you very proud to be in the industry, I think. We're shooting a film, so I've got to get up early in the morning, so not too much drink for me. We're shooting a film called How to Talk to Girls at Parties, which is a Neil Gaiman short story that's been adapted into a film. So yeah, we're shooting that now with Nicole Kidman and Elle Fanning. It's set in 1977, and it's about a group of punk kids in their teens who are trying to chat up some girls at a party, but they don't realise the girls are aliens. So a lot of problems happen after that.
What would you say is the significance specifically of events like this that celebrate independent cinema?
It gives a real, it shines a light, I think, on the diversity of British film, but also it's important to sort of show, yes, we're great at making films like Bond and for hosting films like Star Wars, but there's also such a lively and talented group of creative people here making films of all different shapes and sizes, and it's nice to come here and feel like that's being celebrated.
I think that it's just marvellous not to have to be told what to do by some huge person sitting in an office And I just think that everybody has more individual opportunity, and young people who perhaps haven't been in films before. I think it's wonderful. And I always am attracted to independent films. The minute I know that they are, often they're more daring and more unexpected. So long may they last, I think.
Is there an independent film you've worked on that's meant the most to you, that's really had a special place in your heart?
Trouble is, you can't sort of pick one out, really. But I just, as I say, truly, when I know it's independent, I'm extra keen to be in it.
And what are you going to be in next? What are you working on at the moment?
All secret, all secret. But
all secret films, or are they all secret TV?
sort of, nowadays, if you're in films very often, they don't let you talk about anything, and you have to sign secrecy agreements. So I have to be a good girl.
How does it feel to be a BIFA Award nominee?
Literally, this is just so nuts. It's amazing, yeah.
Obviously, Nina Forever is a unique piece of cinema. Why do you think audiences and critics seemingly have responded so well to it?
I don't know, I mean, because it is a meditation on grief, I feel like even if you haven't lost someone that close to you, everyone has lost something, whether it's just moving from one relationship to the next. And I think it's that, grounding that in reality that people kind of connect to, yeah. Oh my God, Fiona, it was so lucky that the dynamic of our characters had to be that Holly was completely in awe of Nina, because as soon as I met Fiona, I was just like, you're amazing, and she's gorgeous, and yeah, she's an amazing actress.
And were there any particular scenes that were especially challenging to do, particularly some of those intimate moments?
Yeah, because I had neurovirus one day when we had a very nude sex scene, so I wasn't feeling my fittest, put it that way, yeah.
We're here tonight, of course, celebrating independent cinema. What do you think is the unique value, the importance of independent cinema specifically?
I mean, I think because independent cinema needs that little bit more help and that little bit more recognition and just a bit more of a kind of platform to get some of those films out there. So it's amazing, especially because it's British as well. I'm going to be working with Corin Hardy next, who you were at Fright Fest, you probably know. He made The Hallow. But yeah, I'll be doing that next year.
Can you tell us anything about that? What kind of film that's going to be?
No. But you probably can guess what he's getting up to next. Yeah. I've known Corin for ages. We did a couple of short films, and we did a Rizzle Kicks music video together. So I really, really get on with him. He's just a wicked guy. I just like hanging out with him, and I think he's got a great eye for. No, he's just amazing with on-set trickery, and he's obviously a puppeteer as well. I think he's brilliant, yeah.
I have to give you a chance to sing the praises of your Nina Forever directors as well, obviously.
Ben and Chris, I love you. They're amazing. They've given me such a wicked opportunity, and they're such genuine, authentic, kind guys. So, yeah, I mean, they're amazing. I love them. I'd work with them again in a heartbeat. So give me a job.
I'm still getting my head around it. I think I'm really, really honoured, genuinely, and humbled to get here. I mean, I've been to a couple of these dues as a guest, and it's obviously just very nice to be recognised, to be nominated for a British Film Award, which is the highlight of the end of my Hallow year, I think. I mean, I'm a big horror fan, and I wanted to do my own sort of fresh spin on horror, and I looked to fairy mythology and folklore as a starting point to try and tell a story based in our old Irish folklore and make something more current, so it's like a fairy tale survival movie.
Talking about familiar and beloved stories, obviously we're still so very excited about our new imagining of The Crow. Have you got any updates for that in terms of where we're at?
I'm very excited about it. I can't give a real update yet, except to say that we're going to be shooting it next year, which is, I can't wait. And actually, in a way, it's been really good, because I've actually been able to get The Hallow out of my system and get properly a fresh head when I make The Crow.
I know we were talking to one of the beautiful stars of Nina Forever earlier tonight, and she said she's going to be working with you. Is that going to be on The Crow, or is that going to be another project?
It could be anything, but Abby's fantastic, and I've actually worked with her a couple of times on music videos and a short film that you can see, a horror movie, and she's always really impressed me, so I was thrilled to see her nominated tonight as well, Abby Hardingham.
I think it's important because independent film is where all the sort of, unique and sort of ground-pushing stories and characters are sort of, it's where they live, And so people that work in the film industry, want to celebrate that and make sure that a torch is sort of shined on the sort of smaller films as well as the bigger ones. I've got my fingers crossed for Saoirse Ronan. She's a friend, and I saw her movie very recently and thought she was absolutely amazing. A real testament to just that you can make a very simple, very beautiful film without all the twists and turns that we're getting so used to these days. And it really just needs a great story with some great acting, and that's what she delivered, So I've got my fingers crossed for Saoirse, definitely. I just finished, it's a 6-part BBC drama directed by Stephen Polyakov. So we just finished doing that, which was hard work. I'd not done a sort of episodic thing before like that. So it was an amazing experience.
What was it like working with Stephen?
Brilliant, he's hard work and he really pushes you, and he's the master of his universe, which is very exciting. He knows exactly what he wants, he knows exactly the world and the story that he's telling, so you really just kind of make sure you fit in and get him what he needs, I play a British officer. It's really about the dynamic between, it's set right after the war, where the British and the Americans and the Russians actually kind of gathered a lot of the the brilliant minds of the sort of German regime, their aeronautical engineers and their scientists and their military experts. And so it's really about the dynamic between a German aeronautical engineer and a British officer, and how it's called Close to the Enemy. So it's really about, a friendship that kind of develops between what should be two enemies.
Why do you think that particular portion of human history is one that we seem so compelled to constantly revisit and explore?
It's just such a huge part of all of our, backstory, really, And for me, actually, it was interesting to kind of look into, because I didn't know that much about that period of. I knew, of course, you learn about the Second World War, but I didn't know about this thing that happened where a lot of the British and the Americans and Russians, as I said, actually mollycoddled a lot of these Germans to extract their information, which is something I didn't know about.
I'm kind of overwhelmed looking around the room and seeing all these famous faces. I keep worrying that the bouncers are going to come over, put their hand on my shoulder and say, "Sonny, we spotted you outside." So I'd like to enjoy it. But the main thing for me is being here with my peers, people my age, people who've made their first film. It's really exciting to be in their company and enjoy an event like this. I'm really delighted because Mia made some very, very brave choices, both physically in what she did and also in her decision to be so low-key, to be so reserved, to portray someone traumatized by the world she had lived through. And I'm really delighted people have recognized her restraint. I think independent cinema has a very wide dynamic, and it includes films like my own, made with a cast that people aren't familiar with, all the way to something like Ex Machina. But of course, me and Alex, this was our first feature film, so there's a direct parallel with us. It's really important to establish to audiences that sometimes films not made for the studio system can offer them something that studio films can't. So that's what I find exciting about this, is saying the means of production are relevant to the film you're seeing. You can see something that's edgier, that's more truthful, that takes chances if you see an independent film. Things you just don't get typically with mainstream Hollywood films.
It feels great to be nominated, of course, and when you make films at the level of we made, then it's sort of word of mouth, really. So it's lovely just to be kind of people to be talking about it, really. And I used to love travelling America and going to America and seeing it as a young Scottish boy going out there. So I kind of based my character on that romanticism of the place, and it's a 17-year-old Scottish boy that goes out. But yeah, obviously when I go out, it's not horses and guns, and so it's just upping the ante of that kind of wildness by setting in the Wild West. I mean, I started off knowing Michael was going to play Silas in the film, so I really built the character around Michael, and a mixture of knowing that he could play the kind of archetypal cowboy, but also knew he could be vulnerable as well and kind of disintegrate and play around with the stereotypes of those characters. So that was, I was in safe hands there, really. So I didn't really let him get on with what he's good at. And then Cody came on board, and again, I'd seen him when he was a 10-year-old in the road, and now he was 17 when we were shooting, and just his maturity and his understanding of the script was fantastic. So it was, very lucky for a first film. You can say so much about now through them, and they always did. I think the westerns of the 50s said a lot about life in the 50s, and you can be quite metaphoric with it. And the modern westerns, you can say stuff about contemporary life as well, with whether it's talking about immigration or whether you're talking about destruction of Native Americans or whatever. There's always something you can comment on, I think, with a western.
It feels really excellent. Charlie and I started developing the film about 2 years ago, and we're very old friends and make each other laugh all the time, so decided to try and see if we could do that professionally. And we've just had a wonderful experience, and for me it feels amazing to be here with my best friend and have gone through this experience with her, so we're really chuffed.
Well, I would hope that people would laugh watching it. That would be my number one hope. And actually, what was really lovely, a couple of screens we had, people said they texted people like their mum or people they cared about, and I think that was really lovely to find out. So, I guess I'd like people to identify with the characters and I don't know, enjoy the sort of emotional journey it goes on. But it was the inspiration was just female friendship and platonic friendship, and I guess based on that really, and so I'm not explaining this very well, but it was based on lots of stuff that had happened to both of us. So lots of stuff that's happened to both of us has gone in sort of disguised mostly. We didn't crucify you at any point in real life, but that was Chania's idea. So, but Chania has done the Wilman arms.
Well, what was so lovely about, they're extremely talented actors and really connected with Charlie's wonderful script, so that goes away towards explaining how wonderful their performances are, but also the fact that it's in part inspired by our friendship, and Charlie very generously was on the shoot with us a lot of the time. We really sort of invited them into that dynamic by showing off in front of everybody all the time, so we tried to give them a bit of inspiration in that respect.
I think forming a meaningful relationship in a very short amount of time was the challenge, especially when Saoirse had in the film had just had such a meaningful relationship with somebody else. I think swooping in and trying to make something matter very quickly with no physical intimacy, with no pressure, was actually very pressurized. So I found that difficult, but that was kind of the joy of it too, It feels good, but I mean, all you really care about is if the film's good. Current and all the rest of it. The best ones are timeless, and I think that when I read Ex Machina, more of it than it being current, it felt timeless, and I think that's kind of what makes it special, Yeah.
And what was it like to work with Oscar Isaac again on the set of Star Wars?
I can't talk about that. I can't talk about that. He's great. He's always great, and I love him. That's all I have to say about Oscar right now. Yeah.
What for you are the key differences between working on beautiful independent cinema like Brooklyn and Ex Machina and working on huge blockbusters like you're clearly doing as well at the moment?
A really big difference is that one takes longer than another. I mean, I think that should be the only difference. You've got a little bit more time, but it's also not quite as intense often, unless it's The Revenant, which was both. But I think that's the only difference that matters, is one takes a little bit longer. The aim should always be the same, which is to make a good movie.
You've worked with some fantastic directors in recent years. I guess fans are specifically going to want to know what it's been like working with JJ, of course, a unique and very visionary man.
I think JJ is amazing. I was a fan of his work already, so it was very nice to work with him. Yeah, really nice to work with him. It feels weird. Tonight's all about independent movies, so it feels really strange to talk about Star Wars, but all I care about is whether the film's good or not, and I think it's got a really good shot at being good, so we'll wait and see.
The originality of The Lobster was something that I kind of arrogantly perceived of before I even read it, because I had seen Yorgos' work, Yorgos Lanthimos' work, and I had seen Dogtooth, and I hadn't seen Alps yet, but so I had an idea of how extraordinary particular they are as voices, as kind of cinematic voices, or as men. And then when I heard he was making his first English language film, I just thought, wow, that's going to be tasty. And then I got the chance to read it and asked him if I could do it, and tell him, I know you have your process, but I'd love to do it, and goodbye. And then I got the call. what was it like? It was very easy. He's very laid back, Yorgos. Did you get to speak with him at all? Was he here? No. He's a lovely man. You should, even without these things around. You should see him, just go and speak to him because he's very pleasant and he's a little bit odd, but not just comfortingly so. The vibe on the set was really easy. It was really lovely. There was a few good belly laughs through it because some of it is so absurdly funny, and yeah, it was. We moved along very quick because we had a limited amount of time. And the budget was relatively small for how the film looks. I feel the scope of the film, and a lot of that was to do with the topography where we were shooting was so beautiful. But it was a nice vibe on the set. It was easy.
You're obviously working with yet another fantastic director at the moment in David Yates. Can you tell us a little bit about what that experience has been like for you so far?
Animal. He's wonderful to work with. He's a fantastic beast himself. He's just so clever and so kind, and my God, he's kind of brilliant, and he knows, he understands the world that Fantastic Beasts takes place in. Obviously, having done 4 Harry Potter films, I think it was 4, was it? It was 4. But yeah, he's wonderful to work with, man. It's a huge undertaking for a filmmaker, and he's just so calm, and yeah, I'm enjoying it.